Hi there, how are you? I hope your reset is going well. We're now well into it, and we're now going into week 4. So the first 2 weeks we're optimizing our lifestyle, food planning, exercise routine. You will have been continuing to do that throughout last week and this week. We're developing and embedding a knowledge of the energy balance and how it affects you and your health. So we're going to finish off this week. There's some tips, and then the next 2 weeks we start going into behaviors of emotional eating, habitual eating, mindful, mindless eating, etc., etc. But today we're going to go over some more gut health. We went through a lot last week with gut health. If you need to go back and listen to that video again, feel free. We're going to talk a little bit about fibre. We're going to talk a bit about carb cycling. So we've talked a lot about protein, increasing protein, and we still are here in carb cycling, but it's how to bring the carbs in, and it's just a suggestion for you. And then a couple of tips to have more energy and less hunger, and then finishing off with a little bit of blood sugar. So it's quite a few tips this week. It's one that you could kind of listen to. You might want to make a few notes. I'll be sending out some notes to go with it. And this week I will be sending you some recipe ideas as well. And remember, there are recipe ideas on the website, www.infinitebalance.co.uk. Members area, there's a little link up at the top, and the password is SMILE. And there's some ideas there for breakfasts, some lunches, some dinners. And if you need more ideas, message me. There's also quite a few Instagram sites that are good to follow, Facebook as well. I quite like the ones on Instagram because then you can save it and then you can have a look for later. I've got a few on my Instagram as well. But yeah, talk to me if you need to. Okay, so we're still focusing on the energy balance. We're still focusing on the balance of energy in, energy out, and how it's affecting our health. But we're not just thinking of calories. We're trying to go deeper. We're trying to think about our gut health, trying to think about what is constituenting what the calories are made up of, the macronutrients, and really making this work. Because at the end of the 6 weeks, we'll carry this on. This isn't just about let's do it for 6 weeks and forget it never happened. So we want to be able to carry this on. So going on from last week with gut health, I talked a lot about gut health last week. Here are just some tips for you to think about. So on your plate, with your plate, you want to try and build the plate around mostly plants. So it's about half full of plant-based foods, of your veggies, your fruits, etc., etc. Then if you think a quarter carbs and a quarter protein, in there you've got your fats as well. So we're trying to build our plate around the plants. So we're trying to have as many different ones as we can. So number 2, diversity all the way. So we want to feed and maintain the team of microbes in our gut. So they're diversity skilled. They all prefer different plant-based foods. So we want to have that rainbow of foods, have as many different types as we can. You could keep a note of it, but when you are planning your foods, you could be highlighting the plant-based foods in a certain color, and then it's quite easy to see where those plant-based foods are. So to help with that, buy some pre-mixed combinations of the salads, pre-mixed combinations of the veg. You can get the frozen combinations of frozen veg as well. For example, with salad, don't just get a salad with one type of leaf. You could get the one with lots of different types of leaves, with grated carrot, the cabbage, etc., etc. in it. So it's there ready for you. So it's really quick and easy for you to pick up, because we want to have as much diversity of these plants as we can. So moving on from the fruit and veg, have a go experimenting this week with whole grains. There's a whole grain called freekeh, which is high protein. You could maybe have a little play looking in the supermarket at different grains that you wouldn't usually buy. You could Google, I can give you some ideas as well. Whole grains add that diversity to our plate, and it's also going to help with energy levels as well. Okay, another little tip. Get a bag of mixed seeds and put it into a glass bottle. So the good thing about putting it into a glass bottle is that then you can decant it, sprinkle it over foods like you would with pepper. When you have keeping it in the bag, quite often you pour rather than sprinkle. So you probably get a little bit too many. So literally a sprinkle. So think, how much pepper would I have on this meal? Of how many seeds? If you have loads of pepper, then the seeds are full of the fats as well. So we need to be mindful of it. But if you're sprinkling it over your foods, it can add some really lovely taste to those foods, and it gives you small plants, which is great for your gut health. Okay, this week, have a think about getting among the beans and pulses, maybe ones you wouldn't usually have. I love them in soup. So I love having lentils, beans, veg. I like to make a soup that I have. I know it just depends on the weather. As it gets warmer, you might not want as much soup, but still soup has a great place. These are cost efficient, they're nutrient dense, they're easy bought in the supermarket. There is usually an aisle full of beans and pulses. Go and have a play. And if you see one, you're not actually sure what to do, just Google, how do I use red lentils, for example? And it will come up with some ideas, or message me. Okay? Okay, next one for your gut health, dabble in fermented food. So I think most of you are probably doing this already, but the ultimate way to engage with your microbiome friends, yogurt, cheese, I love my fat-free Greek yogurt. I dabble in the high protein yogurts now and again when I'm trying to up my protein. Different milks as well can help. So essentially, we want to build up your meals. So this week, really build up your meals like you did last week, with a range of fruit, with veg, with whole grains, maybe wheat, quinoa, your legumes, maybe chickpeas, lentils. You've got your nuts and seeds that you can sprinkle over, your almonds, sunflower seeds. And finally, spice your food up with as much herbs and spices, again, plant-based, to give it that lovely taste. So they're just a few gut health tips for you there to think about. There was 8 tips all together. I'll send these to you in a PDF to make it easier as well. But it just gives you some food for thought to think about your gut health. So moving on from gut health is fibre. So there is strong evidence that eating plenty of fibre is associated with lower risk of heart disease, stroke, type 2 diabetes, and bowel cancer. So choosing foods with fibre can also make us feel fuller, and then while a diet rich in fibre can also help digestion and prevent constipation. So the government, they say that a dietary fibre intake should be 30 grams a day as part of a healthy, balanced diet. But on average, it's about 20 grams a day. So a great thing for you to do is to use that calorie app while you're using it at the moment. See how much protein, how much fibre, obsessed by protein, how much fibre you've been having per day. You can look back, see how much you've been having, and then start this week, think, okay, I'm going to try and get 30 grams a day, and think of different ways that you can do that. So here's some examples for you. So fibre, 30 grams a day. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So I've got 8 different thoughts for you. So for example, you're making a bolognese with meat or corn or whatever you are basing the bolognese with. So boost it up. Maybe replace some of the meat with lentils, beans, legumes, grated carrot, onions, courgette. So boost up that bolognese with some more fibre. And again, you've got your plant-based foods there, obviously. If you're having breakfast, maybe you are having scrambled eggs on some whole grain toast, then add in a grilled tomato and some beans to up the fibre. And again, really calorie efficient. With quite often when you just want a little snack, have a palmful, literally a palmful. So no bigger, a palmful of nuts, seeds, and dried fruit, and track it. To help you again keep a freezer full of frozen veg. I like Morrison's for frozen veg just because they seem to always have, where I am, quite a good variety of frozen veg. So I will have lots of different frozen veg in my freezer that I can pull out and I can add to meals. When I'm cooking a family meal, I like to have a lot of veg within my meal. My family may not have as much, but they still do have the veg. So I will create myself usually a bigger vegetable concoction that I can add on. If I'm having time when I'm wanting to cut back on the carbs, then I will have a vegetable side plate that I will have, and some of the bolognese. So I am always trying to have the food family meals, and I just try and adapt and change without making a big deal about it. So the kids aren't fully aware. We can all have the same meal, but I'm just tweaking it a little bit for me. And for fibre, for your bread, if you are on white bread, have a go at whole grain or seeded bread to get more fibre in. And then last two. So with that little glass jar of mixed seeds, you could sprinkle some of those mixed seeds on your breakfast. Maybe it's porridge, toast, or eggs, always a winner. And then finally, you can add flavour and texture to your soup by adding in the beans, the grains, etc., etc. So that's just a few ideas of how you can add fibre. So you're trying to go for 30 grams a day. So see how you can go with that this week. You might want to just write a little target, say 30 grams a day, or have a little look at your app. Okay, going to move on. So we haven't talked about this before. We're going to talk about carb cycling. We have talked a lot about protein, trying to up the protein, and last week it was trying to have 80 grams, building it up to 90, 100, up to 130 grams of protein. And so now this goes the next little bit of distance. So carb cycling, this is going back and forth between high carb days and low carb days. You might even have no carb days, but it's quite hard to have a no carb day because as you're tracking, you'll see that there's carbs everywhere. So this is quite often what athletes will use, or people like us on the reset. So you're working out the days that you're exercising more. So you'd usually have your high carb day when you plan on exercising the most. And on those days, your body needs more fuel. So for example, you might eat 2 to 2.5 grams for every pound of your body weight. But I'm going to talk about that more in percentages, so don't worry too much about that at the moment. So an example of carb cycling. So an example of carb cycling would be eating a low carb diet, for example, on a Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, and a higher carb diet on a Tuesday and Thursday. So if you're exercising more on a Tuesday and Thursday, you would have your higher carb Tuesday and Thursday. So, but remember, high carb doesn't necessarily mean you're just eating pasta and bread. You're just eating a healthier version of how you would normally eat. So let me go a little bit further. So with this method, you'd eat a low amount of carbs for the 3 days and then follow with 2 high carb days. But on each of these days, you're still having a lot of protein. Don't worry too much about the days. Some people take a simpler approach and just eat more carbs on big workout days to optimize energy and minimize fatigue and go low carb the other. Don't worry too much about the days, the method really we're thinking about. So here we go. I need to go to the next slide for this one. So a popular ratio for macrocycling might be, for example, if you're starting out, you would always try to have 40% protein-ish. I would say 30 to 40% is probably more achievable. So it's high protein. You're still having 30, 40% on your low carb and your high carb. So I have shared some popular ratios for macrocycling on my screen. It is saying a starting ratio of 40% protein, 30% carbs, 30% fat. Now, these are quite extreme, so take it with a pinch of salt. We're going to have to make it tweak for you. So your lower carb would be 40% protein, 20% carbs, 40% fat. So your fat is going to go up on those lower carb days. Your lower fat, high carb would be 40% protein, 40% carbs, 20% fat. So your fat comes down. So on your higher carb ratio days, your fat comes down. On your lower carb ratio days, the fat comes up. So this might help those people who are finding they're having days when they've got quite a lot of fat. So you could even call it fat cycling. So having some days with higher fat and some days with lower fat, but all the time, well, people go around with carb cycling, they think it's just all about the carbs. But we're starting with the ratio of high protein. I've put 40% protein. That is a lot. You probably want to aim for 30 to 40% protein every day. And then on your higher carb ratio day, you're having 40 to 50% carbs on your higher carb ratio day and less fat. On your lower carb day, you're going to have more fat, 40 to 50. percent fat. So it is very much about tweaking and playing with it, but it just gives you a bit of an idea. If you're going to carb cycle for weight loss, a typical week carb cycling diet might include 2 high carb days, 2 moderate carb days, 3 low carb days. So you could mix it up. So what we're saying now is that a protein is similar from day to day. We nailed that last week, but now we want to start to think about carbs. So which days do I need more carbs? So am I training on a Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday, more intense training Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday? I need more carbs on those days. Or do I just need it Tuesday and Thursday? Do I just need a medium carb day? So do I need 50% carbs on Tuesday and Thursday? Do I need 40% carbs on Saturday? And the other days, I'm trying to come down to 20 to 30%. If you focus on having the protein the same throughout, say 30 to 40%, and then choose your days, you can just map out your days and say, which days do I need carbs? The fats will happen. So which days do I need more carbs? Which day can I cope with less carbs? Now, remember, when you are going to have less carbs, you probably will have less energy. So I'm going to talk to you in a minute about trying not to get too hangry. Okay, this is food for thought. First time I've introduced it. I wouldn't expect you to suddenly go and fly with it. It is very much about having a little play around. Okay. Okay. Things in that one. I think I'm going back on my slides. Here we go. Okay. So talking about those low carb days. So how to have more energy and feel less hungry. These are just a few little tips for you to take away with. I've got 5. Okay, first of all, have a good breakfast, even if you're intermittent fasting. So if you're intermittent fasting and you're having a fasting window, make sure when you're eating, you have a good breakfast. Try and ditch the cereal and go for protein and fibre. So you've got your fibre of your fruit, your veg, your seeds, your pulses, and you've got your protein in there too. You could go for porridge as well, but just get a source of protein in there, even putting sprinkling some protein powder in there as well, and using some yogurt, using some milk, and having some fibre to go with it as well. So that will help you. Okay, fasting, I mentioned that a minute ago. Try and have a fasting window of about 12 hours overnight. So it might be you don't eat from 7 till 7. So this is going to help your blood sugar as well, which I'll talk more about in a minute. So if you are wanting to have some fasting, 12 hours is good, 14 hours is better. So this week you might say, okay, I'm going to have a go at fasting, and I'm going to have a go from 8 p.m. to 8 a.m. See how it goes. If that's too much, do a less. So cut back, start later, or do start at 9 p.m. to 8 p.m. It's not set in stone. It's just for you to have some time to stabilize that blood sugar, which will help your energy and your hunger. Okay, little tip is to avoid caffeine on an empty stomach. So the caffeine raises the hormone cortisol. The cortisol raises the blood sugar, which then affects our energy and our hunger. So that is quite a good way. So if you're going to have caffeine, have something to eat first. Like if it's in the morning, have your breakfast first, then have the caffeine, or have the caffeine during having the breakfast. It's just not having on a complete empty stomach. Another tip to have more energy, less hunger. Make sure you have whole food sources of protein at every meal. So you've got your eggs, your poultry, your fish, your cheese, your beans, your nuts and seeds. So you've got some source of protein at every meal, because this is going to keep your hunger staved off. And then within that, bring in those healthy fats, which will slow down the sugar response. So olive oil, avocados, olives, nuts, coconut oil, oily fish, etc. etc. And also, here's some 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 more tips. Eat at regular times, don't skip meals. So when you have your meals, maybe have them at the set time each day in the week and at the weekend. It stops you from overeating, because quite often we might miss lunch and then we end up overeating in the evening. So try to eat at regular times. If you're intermittent fasting, you can still have regular times. You'll still have 3 meals. So for example, if you have 3 meals and 1 snack during the day, try and have them quite regular. Your active steps, your strength, your cardio training is going to help your hunger levels and your energy levels. So be active with your daily steps. Are you getting in at least 8,000 steps a day as a minimum now? Hopefully that is a yes. And perhaps having more in other days to try and average out at 10,000, 11,000. And strength training, we want to be now training strength training at least twice a week, if not 3, and having 2 cardio sessions a week. That could be a really great cardio walk. Remember, you've got all those sessions within the app. You know, when you've got those cardio sessions, bringing it on and off. Dear, my phone just went. Let me come back to my sharing my screen. Oh dear. Here we go. We're back. Okay. So energy, hunger, drink lots of water, manage your stress levels, choose your foods low in calories, saturated fats, trans fats, sugar and salts. Try and stay off them. Having those whole foods, etc., etc. Okay. This week's tasks. All right, so this week it's about embedding things again. Okay, so that we have had 4 weeks of looking at energy balance, calories, tracking, really getting to grips with our diet. So if you want to have a go at carb cycling, having your same amount of protein each day, so for example, 30-40% of protein within your daily calorie intake, and then have some days as high carb days, some days as low carb days. So some days might be 50%, some days might be as low as 20-30%. Maybe see those, if you've got high activity days, have that as your high carb days, because we're now thinking about our weekly plan and how it's going to work. When you're planning that, think about your gut health tips and the fibre. Can you get in 30 grams of fibre? And so with this now, we really want to have a great weekly plan, a weekly food plan that you could come back to in a month, 6 months ago. Oh yes, that's what I need. Maybe you have 1 weekly plan or a 2 weekly plan that you feel you can come back to. And what you might need to do for that is just have a bit of time. You can use the members area and use a different foods and think, okay, have I got 3 different breakfasts that I can rotate, 3 different lunches that I can rotate? If you need to watch the food planning webinars, they're there within the Reset program on your app. Message me if you need access to that. So now this week, it would be brilliant if you could create some kind of 2-week plan or 1-week plan that you can come back to, that can be used again and again, that's going to meet in with your energy balance. So this is a little bit of putting it all together, because next week we want to start talking about how we're responding, emotional eating, mindful, mindless eating, habitual eating, eating when we're not hungry, etc., etc. So that is what the next 2 weeks are going to be about. These are still the nuts and bolts. I think you have done brilliantly. Thank you very much for being here. If you do have any questions, let me know. I'll be sending you some information through the week to help you. Hopefully the reset is really helping you with your nutrition, your fitness, and your lifestyle. It's not a course that you do and you finish it at 6 weeks and it's done and dusted. You'll be coming back to this again and again and again. Once you're finished, you'll be like, oh, I want to listen to week 3 video again. Just message me and I will send it to you. Okay, if you need documents, I will resend it to you. Okay, it is a journey. It's not all linear. On the app, update your body stats if you want to with your body weight. Keep putting in, if you're doing any extra sessions, keep snapping and marking off the exercise when you do it, etc., etc. Right, you've got this. If you need me, you know where I am. I am here to support you. I am your cheerleader. And yeah, good luck and have a brilliant week.